Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first episode of the GVSU Esports podcast of the 2022-23 academic school year. I am your host, Dominic Stankwitz. Alongside me is my co-host, J-Rod Rhines, right? Last name Rhines?
That is right.
All right, so to start off, we're just going to do a little introduction of ourselves. So like I said, my name is Dominic Stankwitz. I'm a senior at Grand Valley State University. I'm a film major, photography minor, and a digital media studies minor. I'm also a COD player for the school, as well as the social media chair of the club. So, Jared.
So as he said, my name is Jared Rhines. I'm a statistics major. I'm a junior here at Grand Valley. I played on our Valorant teams last year, and I'm currently the president of the Esports Club.
All right, cool. So how these podcasts are kind of going to break down, we're just going to give you a little rundown of how it's going to go just because it's the first episode. So what we're going to do is, like, the first half of the episode is going to be a recap of our ECAC, NECC matches, depending on how many there are in a week. Maybe we might not have any, depending on if teams forfeit or whatever. But for the most part, it'll be a recap of ECAC, NECC, and then the second half will be kind of dedicated towards the certain topics we're going to talk about during the podcast. And then if we have a guest, we will have the guest on for the second segment. But for this episode, like I said, we're just going to do the recap, and then we'll have our first guest who we will introduce later on in the show. So Jared, since he is a Valorant player, and majority of ECAC is through our Valorant teams, because I feel like we have like 20 Valorant teams. Yeah. He will be starting it off with the recaps of this week. So if you want to kick us off, Jared.
Sure. Yeah, so overall, we have 5 Valorant teams, which is crazy. That's like 25 players. So 4 of them actually won 2-0. So Valorant Blue, which is our main team, White, Black, and Red all won 2-0. And 3 of our teams, so Valorant Blue, White, and Black, all remain 3-0 on the season, having beat Adelphi, Scarlet Tempest, and Sage Valorant this week. And then in terms of NECC, Valorant Blue did 2-0 Illinois State, putting them at 2-1 on the season. Their only loss coming to Texas A&M University. So they're looking pretty good. And then Valorant White, I actually don't have the team that they beat, but I know that they beat them pretty handedly, and that puts them at 3-0 on the season. So that should be it for Valorant.
All right, so for every other game besides Valorant, we're going to start off with Rainbow Six 2-1 Wayne State to improve their record to 3-0. Overwatch Blue started off their ECAC run with a 3-0 over Albany, so now they're 1-0. Rocket League Blue won by forfeit against Keene, so that made them 2-1 in ECAC. And then Rocket League White played, what is it, Adelphi? I can't say that name, dude. That's a tough name for me.
One. Feels like a sorority.
Literally. They won 3-2 against that school, and now they are 2-1. And then Rocket League Black 3-0'd Penn State Bethlehem, and that improved their record to 2-1. League of Legends plays on Fridays. So League of Legends Blue plays CWRE. I don't know what school that is.
Mortal Will.
Mortal Will.
Okay, Case Western Reserve University.
That's a wild school. Never heard of them. And then I think we have another.
Yep, we have 2 league teams. Black plays against
teams.
Ball State this week. Or today, I guess. We record this on Friday, so we don't have the results quite yet.
So, yeah, we're going to record on Friday, hopefully post either Sundays or Mondays, depending on the time I have to edit it or whatever. But, yeah, so League of Legends probably won't have a recap, because their games are always later unless we decide to record on Saturdays. But
either that or we'll just have to do them a week late, so we would have to give the result from last Friday.
Yeah, so, yeah, League, like I said, League won't. Let's take a look at their record really quick.
This is the first week, so they haven't played yet.
Is it their first week?
I
feel like
I
Angie sent me score updates for them last week. But
there we go. We got it.
So yeah, they're 1-1. Their loss came to Pace. What school?
Yep.
Is that just literally Pace University?
I think so, yeah.
So Pace University.
Yep.
And then they beat
Wake Forest.
Wake Forest.
Yes.
Do you want to check Black score?
Sure. Let's see if I can find it here. We've got. Oh, lost it.
They had a win on the board though.
They are 2-0.
They're 2-0. So they 2-0'd Fanshawe.
Mm-hmm.
That's a decent school, I thought.
I think so.
I
Their
don't know.
Valorant team was pretty good in the
Yeah.
Open Division
I
last
think
year.
that's how I remember.
Mhm.
And then they 3-0'd or 2-0'd Newberry College. So they're 2-0, and then league is 1-1. So hopefully they both improve their record today. That'd be great.
Mhm.
So yeah, damn. Every team seems to be off to a hot start. That's for sure.
sure.
So what are we predicting for ECAC? Who's winning?
Ooh.
Who's winning? Who's getting
Ooh.
top 3? What are we thinking? We'll go into that. That's a great topic.
It's a good one. Man, I gotta say, Valorant White looks really good this year.
Yeah, that is true.
I actually played with them last week because they needed a sub.
Yeah.
Just because I'm good friends with a lot of the guys on that team, and one of them was my roommate last year. So shout out Noah. But those guys look good. I mean, for being our second team, having like 2 Immortals and a lot of high ascendants.
Yeah, they're solid.
Like,
They're
that's
a solid squad.
For being an Open Division, I could see them winning it.
Yeah.
They look really good.
Yeah. So, yeah, dude, I think blue too looks good.
Yeah.
I think the only downfall of blue is if they like throw around, confidence just goes down.
It's a snowball.
It is, dude. It just like goes downhill. And then yeah, dude. I mean, I guess the campus clutch thing was like they bounced back. They bounced back like a few rounds. Because they were down, I felt like a significant
Yeah,
amount.
they were.
They
were down
ran it
10-6.
Yeah, so they ran it back, but then like
No,
towards like the end of the match, it's just
that would
like
have
you
been a
said, it's
crazy
a
one.
snowball
That would have
effect.
been a crazy one to have a watch party for.
Yeah,
I
that
mean, it
would've
would
been
have been so sad.
Yeah,
but like
that would have been
all over
dude,
the place.
That was a depressing ending.
It was such a
don't even
good
play
game,
Val,
though.
and I was ripping my hair out with you. It was tough.
Like shout out to Paul because that was a really good game. But
Yeah,
man,
that was
1v5 to lose. I'm glad it's not on the VOD though. I know
oh yeah, that is true.
Yeah, our team captain Luff was talking to me the other day after their match, and he was like, "I've watched every single one of our VODs back." He said, "I haven't watched that one."
Yeah, that's tough, man.
It's a tough.
Yeah. I think Rocket League in terms of I don't know every single roster for every single one of our teams, but knowing blue should. I feel like if they play consistently, which is their problem because they're not all consistent, they should win it. I know they're 2-1 right now, but I think at the end of the day, if they keep practicing and consistently play well with no flaws in their game, I think they honestly could.
Oh yeah,
could
they're
take it.
disgusting. I mean, they took fourth in like the CRL East qualifier, which
Yeah,
is
it's
insane.
exactly. It's
They lost to, I
nuts.
think, University of Florida. But
Yeah, and I think there's like better. There's obviously better competition. I think in
CRL.
the
Oh,
CRL
for sure.
sure.
There's like
But,
128 teams per qualifier.
Yeah.
It's like
So yeah, that's a long day of Rocket League.
oh
dude.
yes.
So, Overwatch, knowing them, they should at least get top 3. Like
I think so.
last year, they were solid. I think it's a different roster than last year.
Yeah,
'Cause
it is.
Isaac was the game leader yet last year. He's not in it, but he is. I think he's a sub
I think so.
from what I saw on the roster sheet. But, yeah, dude, I honestly don't know anybody from this roster. Derek, I know Derek's in
Yep.
there.
Yep.
But I mean, they're solid. They're dedicated, and especially with Overwatch 2 being new, everyone's going to be grinding out the game.
Yeah.
So
I think that could kind of be a bad thing though. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a new game, so it's kind of difficult, right? Because I don't really play Overwatch. I just played it for the first time the other day. But like it being a new game, like they like our team could have been disgusting last year, but you just never know.
yeah, that's
Like there could be a
facts.
team that's just randomly good
That's
at this
just
game.
good.
You know?
Yeah. It seems like everything though, like from Overwatch 2 is like
Seems
the
similar.
same. Like some things are obviously tweaked with each hero or whatever champion character. I don't know
Right.
what you want to call it, but yeah, they switch it. Maps might be a little different, but yeah, I mean they were solid last year, and I hope to God they're gonna be good this year. So like I said, I haven't seen them play because my schedules obviously don't line up, but hopefully they come out on top. I give them a top 3 for
Yeah,
sure.
I can see it.
So, who
Yeah.
else? What Rainbow Six? I want to say first or second. I don't know. They're so good.
Yeah,
And it's
they're nuts.
crazy because I feel like they troll half the time, and they're still
True.
just dominating teams. So
These guys are funny though.
yeah, they are hilarious. I take them as winning it too. I
They
think they should
could.
have won last year too. But I just think like minor problems with them and them trolling could literally be their downfall
Could
because
be.
they almost threw the one game, dude. It went to
Oh, yeah,
map
that's
3.
right.
Like they were literally trolling,
Yeah.
and they almost blew it. So, yeah, if they don't troll, they're straight. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for the recap, right?
Yeah, I think so. So should we?
Do we
Maybe.
want to introduce our guests?
I think we should.
Okay, so we are bringing on So last year, our esports coordinator was Chris Bilski. This year, he left in the summer, right?
Yep,
Left in the summer, took a job at Michigan State. Congrats to him. From what I've heard, Michigan State is going full-fledged and putting a ton of money into their esports program. So it's good for him that he's getting a ton of resources, a ton of support from that school, and wish nothing but the best for him. And that kind of left us in a pickle because varsity was supposed to be happening the start of this year. And now with that event happening, varsity for Rocket League, varsity for Valorant is no longer happening until stuff is solidified with the club. Let's just put it that way.
Sure.
When we get, I guess, more structured to the club, then varsity will probably become a thing. I don't know if it'll happen when we're here. Maybe next year. What, you're a junior, right?
Yeah, I'm a junior.
So, yeah, maybe next year. Kind of just all depends on how we do competitively this year and how, like I said, our structure
what kind of results we can show.
Yeah. So, with that happening, that kind of put us back in terms of varsity. But we did hire a new coordinator, manager, what I don't know what you want to call him. He does. He's a master of all trades.
He's great.
I would say. Riley Long is the new esports coordinator here at Grand Valley State University. He has a ton of experience in esports. We'll kind of let him explain where he came from in terms of esports, what his background is, his resume, what teams he's worked for, what schools he's worked for, and kind of take it from there. So, yeah, we're going to just leave you with that little tidbit of information about Riley, and we will be back with that segment. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the interview portion of the GVSU Esports podcast. Back again, Dominic Stankwitz, Jared Rhines, and our lovely special guest that we slightly introduced, Riley Long. Welcome to the podcast. If you just want to give a brief introduction. Actually, it doesn't even have to be brief. Go as long as you want. But yeah, introduction.
Okay. Sounds good. Hi, I'm Riley. Excited to be here. It's probably an understatement. Just started here at Grand Valley as the esports coordinator, coach, director, whatever title you want to use, just last week. So here in just ending off week 2 today, and it's been an awesome experience so far. So a bit of background about myself. I've been in esports for about almost 11 years now. I got into esports in the Call of Duty scene back in 2012, 2013-ish. So I competed in high school in Black Ops 2 and Call of Duty Ghosts. That was my entry to the competitive scene. In college, I went to Michigan Tech University and got into the Counter-Strike scene. Actually, I have a younger brother, Voltage, who eventually became a Counter-Strike pro. So in college, I got a lot of experience managing a lot of Counter-Strike teams, learning how contracts work, and really the business side of esports. And then I graduated college in 2017 with an engineering degree. Not really relevant to anything I do nowadays, but it was a good way to earn some income and then inevitably invest in my own esports team, which was started in 2017. So I ran and started Armada with a good buddy of mine from college. Fielded teams in about 9 or 10 different games. We started as a Counter-Strike and Call of Duty org, quickly expanded to probably 8 or 9 different titles. 2019, we got heavily into the Smash Ultimate scene, and that's where we found our bread and butter and built one of the best Smash teams in the whole world. That was a lot of my experience in the pro scene, was running that organization. And that's kind of my background in the professional side of things, all the way up till early this year I was running that org. And then in collegiate, 2 years ago, I started working for Michigan Tech as their assistant director of esports. Did that job for only about 8 months, and then took the job to be the director of esports at Aquinas College out of Grand Rapids. Did that job for exactly a year, literally 365 days, and then started at Grand Valley last week. Yeah. So that's probably a record that I just set of like the shortest amount of time that I have explained that. So I'm proud of myself for that. But
I was about to say, that was quick.
Yeah. So, but yeah, happy to be here. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah. Congrats. Obviously, we're lucky to have you, and we're happy to have you as well. For being here for 2 weeks, it feels like we've already took a huge step forward on figuring out the next steps or the future of the club. So at least for me personally, I appreciate it, and I know players, Jared obviously probably appreciates it too as the president. So that definitely probably takes weight off your shoulders.
When are we getting mouse pads?
Yeah. So
Already done.
yeah, obviously you've dabbled in like pretty much every game of esports. So that's a plus because you can obviously help us expand even more into, different games that we don't have and stuff like that. So how are you liking GV so far? Like in terms of like staff, students, like are they supporting you fully with, decisions you want to make for the future?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. I love it so far. It's been very different than my experience at Aquinas. At Aquinas, we were under athletics. So, I was the director of the program. I managed everything myself. And I did get a lot of students involved, but it's very different than a club environment where everything really stopped at me. Over here at Grand Valley, it's very different. We're under recreation and wellness currently, as well as kind of a bit of club sports as well. So really it's very different here where it's about giving students like yourself opportunities to take on some of those leadership responsibilities and get those experiences for yourself. And I'm here as more support function to kind of utilize some of my experience to kind of guide you in the right direction and break down, obstacles when they come up. But I absolutely love it. I have so much support from my administration. Just every conversation I have with the people I report to directly are always interested in hearing about ideas of expansion, what's important, what does the esports program need, and they've already shown they're putting in actions to get meetings with really important people to get stuff done, right? So absolutely love it so far, and got a lot of really cool things in the work for this coming year. So
that's great.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned how you started Armada and worked in the professional scene for a while, and I know we've talked about it a little bit, but do you want to kind of just explain why you've chosen to be more focused on collegiate esports?
Yes. Yeah. Being in the tier 2 scene of, a ton of different games over the span of 5 years, one thing I really learned is there's a lot of issues when it comes to trying to be, you're a 16, 17-year-old climbing up through the scene. You haven't broke into the pro scene yet, right? So you're considered like a bubble pro. You're really close, and then you got to make that decision. Am I going to forego going to college, or am I going to go to college and potentially, sacrifice that opportunity to finally make it a pro? Well, in the past, when collegiate esports really wasn't a thing yet, you had really no choice. So a lot of times people will forego going to college, and I think higher education is a great opportunity to not only grow as a person, whether you're a traditional sports athlete or an esports athlete, but to grow into a better human being and a more balanced person. And in the tier 2 scene, that doesn't exist, right? There's a lot of predatory organizations that try to sign players to terrible contracts. Players live very unhealthy schedules and don't truly understand how to put together a efficient practice routine. A lot of times it's 12 to 14-hour days. You're just grinding the game and not really thinking about things you need to improve on, not prioritizing mental health, physical health. Collegiate has an opportunity to fill all of those gaps and to still allow people to pursue that, the dream of being a pro, but at the same time, get an education, have a backup plan, get a great degree, and really live a more balanced life, right, and develop as a human. So I've really found that's a big passion of mine, and I think collegiate has the tools to eventually become how college sports is, like college football, for example. Obviously, the reach of college football is very hard to get to, but when it comes to, having that path to pro, but also still having extremely high level competition and still playing against a lot of tier 2 players and some of the better players in the country, right? So ultimately that was a decision why it made perfect sense for me to, jump out of the pro scene and then just jump into collegiate full time.
And I think the nice thing too is that like colleges, because they're already so involved in traditional sports, is like they already have all the resources, right? They already have, like, you have so many different majors covered, and you have so many people that specialize in so many different things that you can cover, like the mental health aspects, the physical health aspects, and everything that's already kind of covered by traditional sports. So it's just about getting those resources allocated also towards like the growing esports community.
I mean, I feel like it'd be harder to succeed though if you wanted to move up in esports if it was in at least the collegiate, because you are focusing on more than just gaming. Like your gaming is in reality, it's limited now, because like you said, like the people that like just didn't want to go to school or whatever and didn't want to get that backup plan, they're grinding, 12 hours a day. They really want like this dream to come true. And then if they wanted to go to college, like get a backup plan, like that, I feel like that's just going to limit them to the amount of time they're going to play. Honestly, I think mental health would honestly it would take a toll even more, even if you're in school, because you have to deal with homework, studying for tests and stuff like that. So I don't know. What do you think on it?
Really
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I don't even like play competitively like that much until like COD comes out. But like dealing with hockey in school, like mental health is like brutal. And even when COVID hit, like went to the hospital for mental health. So it was like it was shot. So
yeah, I think it's tough. In the short term, there's going to be a lot of growing pains. You know, there are a lot of collegiate teams and organizations that try to act like amateur teams and try to practice 40 to 50 hours a week, and it just doesn't work. You know, people just get burnt out, especially when we don't have much of an off season outside of the summer, which even then most games have leagues and tournaments that are happening over the summer that they're like kind of optional to compete in. I think that as more research gets done about efficient practice and the importance of mental and physical health when it comes to performance of esports players, I think we'll come to find out that playing 12 to 14 hours a day, you'll get to a point where it's like diminishing returns, right? Like I don't think you're gonna get better. You might get worse if you're putting in too much time. Now there's some people that are just wired differently and they can just handle that.
Yeah, it's insane.
Right?
Yeah.
But I still think there's ways to, even if you can't play as much in college, ways to practice a lot more efficiently and be more conscientious about your mental and physical health. And ultimately that'll help you, improve at, potentially the same rate that a tier 2 player would be if they're not in college, right? But like you mentioned, in the short term, when a lot of schools are still developing what that looks like on campus and understanding what resources each team is going to need, it's going to take time to get those resources in place so that players can be improving at the same level that you would be if you forego college. So
yeah, I didn't really take into consideration that. I feel like if you play more, if you're playing like 12 hours a day, dude, you're bound to get exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that just leads to mistakes. So I didn't really think about that.
I wasn't even playing that much, but like when we were scrimming a lot last year with like the Valorant teams, like I was burnt out over the summer. Like I didn't really want to play.
You
that
didn't
much.
want to play, yeah.
Yeah, but we played a lot.
Yeah, and then like that just like no motivation to play
Yeah,
after you're
exactly.
playing 12 hours a day or like even like
Especially because
6-7 hours.
I was just getting like rolled in comp.
Yeah,
like,
like
we were winning in
Valorant-
league, which was great, but I was like gold 2.
and the game's like 45 minutes, like an hour, maybe.
for sure.
So it's like, dude, like exhausted.
Yeah, and I think the hardest part of that is a lot of players, they don't have the right mindset when it comes to, even if they're playing 12 to 14 hours a day, for some people, that could be helpful. Like it could be manageable for, a small percentage of people. But the problem is we put so much value into ranked in like Valorant or League or just any game that has a highly competitive ranked ladder.
Except COD.
Yeah,
Terrible.
Yeah,
Terrible.
unfortunately.
One day,
Yeah, maybe.
Black Ops 2 ranked will be back.
No, that'll never happen.
Right.
That'll never happen.
Yeah,
We can hope.
that's an issue I never really experienced when I was playing because you're right, COD, even in Black Ops 2 that had a good, the best rank system, it still doesn't nearly compare to what like League of Legends or Valorant has.
100%.
But the problem is a lot of players put so much value in that
Yeah.
their mood gets dictated by wins and losses, right? And they lose
Been
the
there, yeah.
picture where at the end of the day it's, once a week, hey, what are the 1 to 3 things that you need to work on?
Yeah.
I like to frame it this way, where if you're, I'm going to say Rocket League, for example, is the game I know the best right now. There's probably a list of 20 to 25 different mechanics that are important in Rocket League, right? And say, for example, like I'm like Diamond 3 right now in Rocket League. Out of those 25 different mechanics, I'm probably Diamond 1 in 5 of them, Champ 2 in 3 of them, right? And then it averages out to me being Diamond 3. Right. So what I think is important is to identify what are those important mechanics or ideas or, positioning. Like there's a lot of different things that go into it for that specific title. And then understand, hey, can you identify those 5 things that you're the worst at?
Yeah.
Right? I think that's a really hard mindset to get into because we've gotten so obsessed with, what rank are you? But I think that's a much healthier way to look at the game. And it basically you're not going to be as swingy in terms of your mood, even if you are playing a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's something I had kind of a lot with Valorant last year too, was just because like I was the captain and IGL of a team with like 2 or 3 immortals on it, and I'm just here like dropping from diamond to gold in a week,
Yeah.
And so it's like, why am I running this team? And so it makes you kind of doubt yourself a little bit.
Yep.
But no, my team did a great job. They were really supportive, but that was a great way to think about it too, because there was a point where I was like, okay, well I'm like immortal 1 level in this role, but like I'm like plat 3 diamond 1 at this, right?
Yeah.
Like, like I'm a really good Sentinel player. Like I can play Cypher at a super high level, but maybe I got to work on like my initiators or something.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, that definitely, like, those kind of roles like vary game to game. Like, I
Yeah.
feel like in COD that's like not a thing. Like,
Right.
Everyone like in reality like has the same role. Like, I guess
Like subs and ARs kinda,
Your subs and
right,
ARs, but like I feel like it's different when it comes to Valorant.
Yeah,
I
oh
don't
for
know.
sure. Like they're very defined.
That's
for sure.
what I mean, because I stink at Valorant.
'Cause, I mean-
I stink at Rocket League. I stink at Overwatch. It's like every game that has like different roles. Like,
I mean,
I'm brutal at it.
COD is
but-
like it's kind of vague, right? Because you've got like it's obviously different with every COD.
yeah,
But like you got like a sub, but you have like an entry sub kind of, and then like I don't know. I mean, I know a little bit. I don't
You
know
have
a ton.
an anchor,
but
right?
Yeah,
I'm
you
assuming
have
anchor
exactly.
is still a role nowadays.
dude, it's
Kinda.
like not. It's like not.
I used to play
really
flex.
feel like it's not.
Yeah, I used to play flex and anchor.
Yeah,
so
it's
I
like-
swap between the two, but
Compared to like Black Ops 2 and like today,
Yeah.
completely different. Like Anchor was huge in Black Ops 2.
oh yeah,
but now
'cause
it's
spawns
like
were everything.
it. Like now spawns are just doesn't even matter if you're in the back of spawn.
Just
The
terrible.
dude could just spawn right next to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So it's just like
Squad
It's all over the
spawn.
place. Yeah, squad spawn. So yeah, it's all over the place. Was Aquinas varsity?
Yes.
So they gave out scholarships.
Yes. Yep.
Is that like include full? Is that like full ride stuff or no?
So-
like close to it.
So it depends how you define it, right?
Okay.
And I would say majority of schools nowadays that have varsity programs are going to be smaller schools. A lot of times they're private schools, right? And to be frankly honest with you, it's just a way to boost enrollment, right?
Okay.
Now, of course, there's always aspects of aspirations of being a top competitive team.
Yeah.
But that's just strictly from a business standpoint. That's how a lot of small schools operate. That a lot of their athletics teams really help boost their enrollment, right? So that's kind of how it's structured. And so how it was at Aquinas, and it's like this at a lot of schools as well, is there's esports scholarships that you give out. So I was in control of that, and really how
Okay.
it works is I had an average dollar amount that I could give for each recruit. So I could offer somebody a little less than the average, so that I can offer a higher recruit, like a higher prospect, a little more. That's kind of how it works in the little piece that I controlled. But a lot of those schools also have academic scholarships that are offered
Yeah,
to
that's true.
everybody. And that's why you see a lot of their tuition numbers really high. But in reality, they're offering a certain amount of academic scholarships to everybody that gets into the school. So really it kind of levels it out to be more competitive with public schools. So how it worked at Aquinas, on average, all of those scholarships, including the scholarship I offered, the scholarships that came from academics, the financial aid-based scholarships that the school awarded or the government awarded, it averaged between everybody in the roster was usually at like 50% of their tuition was in all the total scholarship up to
Yeah.
100%. And a lot of like 90% of the scholarship amount comes from the academic scholarship and the financial aid based, right?
Yeah.
And that's very common at most varsity programs at this point, right? You have the 1% of programs that are offering full rides. Some of those are smaller schools. Well, I say smaller schools. Northwood isn't super small.
No,
but,
yeah.
they're offering big time scholarships, and then you have some Power 5 schools that are getting involved. I know Ole Miss is probably offering some big time scholarship. West
Yeah.
Virginia is offering full ride scholarships, right? So we're kind of at a bit of a breaking point. We're going to see a lot of bigger schools.
Or just they're gonna
Jump
throw
in.
money into it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, like I said, primarily 99% right now are those smaller private schools, and a lot
Yeah.
of times that's how their scholarships are structured. A little piece of it is the athletic scholarship. Most of it still comes from financial aid or academic scholarships.
Yeah. I mean, I think I don't know for sure, but I imagine it's probably easier for a lot of those smaller private schools too, just because like obviously they're smaller, so it's not as hard to get like through maybe a chain of command as it would be at like here another really large Power 5 university, right? So you can go through the chain of command and be like, hey, like we should jump on this before a lot of other schools do, and start offering money for it.
You think we can have more success though compared to like Northwood? I guess. Let's just say Northwood because I feel like they're somewhat like closed. I don't know. They're like 2 hours maybe.
They're in our conference.
Yeah, so they're in our conference. Like, do you
They're
think?
leaving the conference, but they're currently
They're
still
here
in
for
it.
now.
Do you think it's still possible for us to succeed as much as them? Like with them giving out scholarships and with us just being a club, do you think we can compete with these schools that are throwing in a ton of money to get top recruits from around the state, around the country? Like, do you think we have a legitimate shot?
Yes, yeah, and And, Northwood's a tough comparison because I would argue they're the best program in the country when it comes to strictly competitive results right now.
Yeah.
They won the CRO World Championship. I think they won the Overwatch World Championship.
They won
or
CCL
National
too.
Championship last year. They won CCL.
Yeah.
They were a school that got in really early, hired somebody who really knows how to recruit, Cody, great dude over there, and got top teams from the start. So therefore, top players want to come to them. It's a snowball effect, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to compare to them, but in the grand scheme of things, if Grand Valley can take the appropriate steps to get to a point where they can offer similar financial packages to what schools like Northwood and other Power 5 schools are doing, then yes, 100%. They can compete with the best of the best. Obviously, it takes time. You
it does.
need to take time to establish those varsity teams, establish that high level of competition that will inevitably attract high level players, have good marketing campaigns and content campaigns to show off Grand Valley, show off what that experience is like. But Grand Valley, they have the facilities, the resources, the size of the school to be a top tier program. It just takes time.
Considering we're just a club, we're still quite competitive, relative to a lot of schools in terms of like obviously they're really good, but at least in Valorant, we're really competitive still. We could still stand a chance against them, realistically.
And that's the great thing as well. A large school like this that has good STEM programs is in a hotbed of talent, which is Michigan esports as a whole. Inevitably, you're just going to get natural talent that comes from the program, and we're seeing that now with the competitive club teams that we have. Rocket League and Valorant are probably top 30, top 40 teams in the country at the very least, and are taking down schools like Illinois State that happened on Monday, which is a program that's giving full rides. I think they're giving room and board as well, and also building a $10 million esports facility, right?
That's ridiculous.
So we already are competitive in a couple titles. It's just tough, though, because currently the only way to get talent is to rely on incoming students.
Exactly. We just have to hope that they kind of show up.
You're praying that there's 2-3 guys to come back and fill the spots of whoever left or take over. But
no, I know. It's funny because last year at Campus Life Night we had Gorillo, our Rocket League guy, who's kind of a sub this year. But
Ryan.
Yeah, Ryan. He was at Campus Life Night. He was walking around just to random people's I need an SSL. Do we have an SSL? Any SSLs? It was really funny. So we kept giving him a bunch of crap. We need one. We have 2 right now. But now they got 5.
Yep.
So. Yeah, dude. He kind of just took a step back because now it's varsity. He doesn't want to play as much. So I think once varsity comes along, he'll want to play again. But I don't know where where he academically stands in terms of class.
Next semester, I think he's planning to come back. But
okay,
yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because I think long term, I think a lot of the big schools you'll start seeing come back, right? Once a lot of schools start getting involved and it starts getting to be a very profitable thing, I think long term you'll see a lot of big schools that just because one, they naturally have the talent, and two, they'll have kind of the more resources to throw at it long term. So,
hopefully the resources are there. I don't know how Bilski handled GV, but I don't know. I felt like he didn't get enough resources or enough help from the school to get stuff going and stuff like that. I could be wrong. But
the thing is, it takes time, right?
Yeah.
So phase 1 is the LEC.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of schools have made the mistake of jumping into varsity too early. When you have a big school like Grand Valley, it's important to build the foundations.
Yeah.
So you have a big community of gamers, casual all the way up to very competitive gamers on campus, so that when you get to the point where then you can launch the varsity side of things, you have that support system on campus. So then if you want to build a viewing area for in a little main stage for the best varsity teams to play their biggest matches on, you have now a community that will come out, support those games, right? So I think it's important to take this step first, and I think that was this past year at Grand Valley. And now that we have that, we very much understand we're already kind of outgrowing it.
Exactly.
And we know we need to look into phase 2, right?
Yeah.
Which is my big project over this year.
Right. That'll be our thing.
Yep.
Yeah, we're definitely, dude. I'm so excited. It sucks because I'm leaving after this year,
know.
so it's dude,
I got one more.
I wish I could be a part of it. Maybe there's a job opening at Riley, but no.
Well, it's important to keep our alumni involved.
Yeah,
that's how I got into collegiate esports. I started as an alumni advisor at Michigan Tech. And I was just helping out with the program for 4 or 5 months, and eventually They decided, hey, you're bringing a lot of value to the program. Let's bring you on as a part-time assistant director. And that was kind of my foot in the door. So, and not only that, but alumni support is critical when it comes to expansion of the program, right?
Yeah.
Having alumni that are engaged, supportive, can really help mentor current players, right? And then also potentially give back in the future. That can really help when it comes financially trying to build out new facilities and things like that. So
in terms of like the club now, like I said, you've been here for a few weeks now. You've met pretty much majority of the e-board. I don't know if you met Dylan yet.
Yes.
We had dinner with Dylan.
Oh, okay.
So
you met Dylan?
He's met Dylan, just not officially.
Yeah, it was in my
started.
interview process. So.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was at dinner with us.
So what do you, coming in brand new and seeing how we like kind of run things, like what do you think is good what we're doing, and like what do you think are some steps we can improve on?
Yeah, I think the good things that we're doing is, one, that we're all together under one umbrella. I think that's important. Because it's very difficult to function if you're 8 or 9 different clubs. Because one, it's just hard to get a hold of everybody, right? Like communication, it makes it difficult. But also, I found that my past year at Aquinas, we were only a program of 30 student athletes, but we built such a strong culture because of teams supporting other teams, right?
Yeah.
And games supporting other games. So that built a great culture so that once we were all on the same page, each team felt supported by not only myself, but players in the entire program, but also we could run fun team bonding events that everybody would show up to because everyone's friends with each other, right? So I think that's one really good thing that we have going for us. I think that opportunities of improvement just come around trying to improve our organization and structure. Strictly when it comes to the competitive side of things, right?
Yeah.
So taking some of those processes that a lot of like varsity teams use and starting to implement that so that our competitive teams are more structured, that we have very rigid practice schedules, right?
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff is important so that once we get coaches that come in and get hired, or once we get to the point that we're going to get a broadcast facility, which is in the works.
Yeah.
That's
true.
We have structure, we have systems in place so that we know when the matches are every single week.
Yeah.
Right. All the players on each team know when their matches are well in advance, so that we can plan ahead for it. I think just a lot of those stuff is just important to get implemented in the short term, just so that we're preparing for a lot more complexities that are going to come when we have dedicated broadcast facility and we continue to expand. Right.
Yeah. You helped me a lot, like starting this past week with the match schedules, because it just makes it so much easier being the social media guy, making the graphics and like trying to like get ahead at the start of like Monday or whatever. It at least helped me out. And I don't know if everyone can see the weekly match schedules. No, not everyone. So it's just
the game leads as of now. But I just got my Google account created. Okay. So now I'm going to be able to create a shared calendar. Okay. So likely I'll have a link to a shared Google calendar that I'll update weekly. Yeah. That I'll just give access to all the competitive teams.
Gotcha.
And I'll just update it every Monday, as long as people get their submissions in before Sunday night.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Fair enough.
Yep.
No, I know, and I know you mentioned the broadcast facility. I think that's a good way to kind of get in maybe some plans for the next, like for this year, I guess, maybe some events or like some ideas that we got going on. So.
Yeah, we need to like we got to up the broadcast, man. It's like the games we like seem to broadcast is like Valorant only, or in Rocket League occasionally if Nathan is around to do it. But like with only doing Valorant and Rocket League, it gets like no recognition to the other teams. So like I don't know, we got to like figure out how to get someone to at least stream the game, or we don't even need a caster right now. It's just like getting it out, like broadcasting it. But
and we can use the YouTube more too.
Yeah, we definitely
we did that a little bit last year. Where we had a team streaming on the Twitch and the YouTube at the same time.
Well, yeah, it was like Overwatch took over YouTube, and then you guys took over Twitch pretty much. And you guys had the viewers, but yeah, dude. I mean, I think we tried to have Rainbow do it, and Dylan couldn't figure out how to do it, or he did, and it stopped working. But I mean, I don't know.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, having a dedicated space though is so important, right? Yeah. Because Grand Valley's got a really strong brand, and we gotta make sure that if we're gonna put out an official broadcast on behalf of our competitive teams, there's a certain level of quality we got to make sure that that's there, right? So I think it's important to get that facility so that we can take the next steps, and I'll be working on that next week. So.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, we've got
Good.
a couple meetings lined up, so
Awesome.
stay tuned.
Yeah, we're excited.
I know Dom had mentioned this too, and I know we were kind of thinking about touching on it too. Is just like the large influx of women in the club, which is great.
I was literally just about to
that was kind of my
ask that
segue.
question.
So
Yeah. I don't know if you want to ask the question.
You go for it.
Yeah, so I just saw on Twitter recently on Behance, like I go on Behance to just look at some graphic stuff to get an idea of where I want to lead graphics for the school or whatnot. There's like a all women's Valorant. It was either Valorant or Rocket League. I don't know what game it was, but it was like an all women's tournament. So like Jared said, there was a big jump this year compared to last year in terms of like women competing or even coming to the LEC. Like I feel like I see Sadie in there a ton. The girl that casts with JJ comes in there a decent amount.
Yeah.
And there's like 2 other girls that come in there and like play Valorant or whatever. Yeah. But yeah, dude, it's like a huge jump. Do you think there's more room now? Do you think there's more room now for women with I don't know. I don't want to say like there's like more inclusion now in society, I guess, for like women and equality and stuff like that in terms of like just sports in general now. And I can just relate it to hockey because USA and Canada like broke the record for like viewing or viewership in terms of like their Olympic game. But do you think there's more room now for women in like the pro scene? Let's just use Valorant because I see all the women in our club seems to be playing Valorant in terms of competitively. Angie's in League. I don't know if there's another.
We got Overwatch a little bit.
Oh, yeah, there's
couple.
So, yeah, so there's some in Overwatch too. But do you think there's more space, let's say outside of collegiate? Do you think there's room for women to be pros with the men? So like combined with the men?
Yes. Yeah. So what I think is important though, and what needs to happen is what Riot is doing, for example, with I think it's called Game Changers. Yeah, VCT Game Changers, which is the women-only league for Valorant.
That's probably
right?
what I saw then.
Yes, and which is the women-only league for Valorant, right? Yes, and I think there's a couple other titles that have it as well. I'm not sure that League has one currently. I think Rocket League might, but I think that's really important. That's like the important first step because a lot of the issues that women face is when you're queuing in a ranked game or you're trying to join a competitive team. There's a lot of stigmas and stereotypes that women are facing and a lot of harassment that women face when trying to play online games. So it's I could only imagine how difficult it can be to stay motivated.
Yeah.
And, a lot of times you're constantly going to be put down by other people. So I think it's important to create these spaces that women can develop as esports players. And the Game Changers is a great example of that. And you have, I'm guessing all of the top Game Changers team, you're probably going to see all Radiants across the board, right?
Pretty close. They're all
High Immortal, all Radiants.
Pretty solid.
And so Valorant's a very new game, but probably has like the best women's team in the world compared to just about any other esports title out there.
Yeah.
Right? So I think we're already showing why that's important and, the results because of it. Now, there have been some women that have played for pro teams before. So Rainbow Six, I can't remember her name for the life of me. I follow her on Twitter, but she played for, I think it was Beast Coast, and eventually I think she played for Cloud9. But she was a pro Rainbow Six player. Playing in the pro league. So there's been a few instances, but I think it takes time. It takes that culture shift. It does take that, people holding themselves accountable and holding other people accountable. Yeah. Especially if you're in a ranked lobby and, there's a woman that's getting flamed on your team, and someone's being a misogynist to them, then it's on us to call them out.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think, the combination of the culture shift as well as these important leagues and tournaments that are getting put in place, I think you'll see over time a lot more women become pros.
Well, I think it's interesting too because you're talking about Game Changers, but for a while the Cloud9 Game Changers team was like one of the best in the world, and like I think their thing was a lot of the other Game Changers teams were scared to compete like in the regular VCT, and they like kept competing like in the normal tournaments just to do it. Like they got beat pretty badly in a lot of games, but like they were doing it, and that's why they were better than everybody else because they were competing in the actual league. And it helped them just in general because none of the other teams were.
Yeah.
So, They weren't scared to play against anybody else.
Yeah, dude. I just think it has to like come with like marketing of the games. So like, I think the games have to like kind of promote that. You know, like the game changers or whatever it is. I didn't know that was a thing, but yeah, dude. That's got to come from like every game. Like if women want the equality in terms of like gaming and being able to join alongside the men, or at least get their own pro division, like strictly them with like equal amount of prize pool, like the games have to like, I don't want to say the games have to lead that charge. Obviously, like women have to like lead it and push it, but like the games have to like be on board here.
Well, I think what's really important that a company like Riot has done super, super well is really focus on diversity and inclusion and weave it into the culture of their game themselves. So League and Valorant does this, is that a lot of new champions, you'll see equal representation across, all ethnicities, all backgrounds, all genders, right?
Yeah.
Like we're seeing that now, and that has really helped, promote all people, of all backgrounds to actually play the game and get interested in the game and actually find champions or characters that they can connect with. And I think that's really helped promote the amount of people in general that are getting into gaming as a whole. I think that's why Riot is such a successful company, is because they understand that not only is that important, but there's a business incentive to it as well, right?
Yeah. And I think it helps too, like it just helps in general, like making people that wouldn't normally have played the game play it, right? Like, I mean, I saw a group of girls just playing Valorant in the LEC the other day. Like, even though they're not great at it, like they're having fun.
Yeah, they're having fun, exactly.
They're getting on the game and like finding a way to maybe relate to the characters or just have like play someone that they like. It's like,
dude, and I know Valorant, like public lobbies are so toxic.
Oh my god.
Even for me, dude, like I've had girls on my team and like randoms are just roasting her, dude. It's so bad. It's just in general, dude, women are just smashed when it comes to like anything related to like sports or esports. It's brutal.
Well, that's something that like we as an e-board have talked about too, with just like the insane amount of girls that have joined the club lately. Like, it's a great thing, but I know that it's like kind of difficult for them too, just the way that gaming is and a lot of like maybe the toxic masculinity that's involved.
Yeah.
And so like obviously we're working on having like a at least monthly like girls night in the LEC.
Yeah.
So that's something that we're trying to get done and get a date for.
Yeah. It should be, we're praying that at least it starts in October. We don't have a set date yet. It kind of I don't want to say it falls on Ange and Jazz, but like I mean they're the two.
They're gonna be hosting it.
Yeah, like they're the two women that are like have a good position in the club at least. Like even though Jazz isn't on the e-board, she plays like I think a big role. Like she's a huge supporter of every single one of our games, and is a worker at the LEC. But yeah, like I mean, I'm excited to host I'm not hosting the women's night, but I'll
be involved in planning it.
Yeah, I'll be involved. And obviously, I'll be there to like take pictures and like like show like we're trying to include everybody here. We're not just like staying with the male dominated esports or whatever. Right. So, yeah, dude, I'm excited where the direction of the club's going in terms of us growing. Including, like I said, everybody in every game. I don't know. Do you have any more questions for Riley? I got nothing. I think
we covered a lot.
Yeah, we've covered a lot. I mean, you kind of already touched on the direction of the club, like where you see us like down the line. I don't know what your time frame is here at GV, but I mean, I don't know, like where do you see us in, like, I'll just say like next 2 years. Like we'll keep it short for you.
So first, I'll speak on the time frame, and that is not to talk poorly about any of my previous employers, but Grand Valley is the first job that I've ever had that I could see being a lifetime job for me.
Okay.
Right? And obviously, there's no guarantees. Life is crazy. Things change all the time.
Exactly.
But this is a school, and I touched on it earlier, that has the resources, has the vision, right? The view of innovation, and understands the importance of the future of esports. And I wouldn't be here if that wasn't the case, right? Now, in terms of the next 2 years, I guess let me first give my high-level vision of where I think esports will exist in higher education. I think you're going to have an esports club on campus, and you're going to have something like the LEC that all of students will also be able to use, right? That's the student life component. You're going to have the club sports component, which will be the esports club, as well as intramurals that will happen probably out of that facility. Then you're going to have the umbrella of varsity esports, which likely will exist under athletics. There's some schools that have varsity programs that are not under athletics. They're under like student life, and they're still giving scholarships. I think there's not really a definitive answer there, but athletics makes the most sense. So that's going to be its own separate umbrella, where I think it should have its own dedicated varsity facility.
You're going to be a part of that, though, right?
Yes.
I was about to say, I hope to God you're leading the charge with that.
Of course.
I was about to say,
that would be my plan. Yes, that would be my goal, is to lead the charge of all of that.
Yeah.
And then also you're going to have academic curriculum around esports. And that also will tie into all of the broadcasting and live streaming, content creation, all of that, which will be its own little separate thing that obviously will interact very heavily with the varsity program and potentially the club as well. So I think that's all the different areas that it's going to exist.
Yeah.
And then it's my job to just get us there over time. I think the big priorities over the next 2 years is one dedicated broadcast facility, like I mentioned earlier.
Yep.
That's on my mind for this semester or next semester to get done ASAP, because it can instantly level up everything that we're doing and give a lot of opportunities to a huge club that we have to get people involved in casting, production, start learning how all of that works, so that once we get to a point we can launch a bigger broadcast facility, we already have students that are engaged, involved, trained, and can just take it and run with it. And then also, investigating the varsity side of things, right? Like, what more things can we do to start acting like a varsity team, receive the resources that varsity teams get? That doesn't necessarily have to mean that we get scholarships, but, having something that's separate from the club that we identify as varsity teams that have operational budgets, right? That, have the opportunity to travel to lands, things like that. So I would say those are the two bigger things I'd work on over the next 2 years. But, who knows? It's still too early to say what's going to be feasible. But everything I've heard, I haven't received any roadblocks yet. So everybody's very open to talk about these things. And, I think that goes all the way up to through the chain of command. So.
Yeah, and I think the big thing, too, is that, like, in terms of the broadcast stuff, we already have a lot of the equipment right here, and it's like we're not missing much. We're just missing a dedicated space, realistically. And then I know another thing, too, that we had kind of touched on was, like, another place that it would exist is just having, like, a curriculum, too, which is a really important thing eventually.
Yeah, that's gonna be so sweet. But again, dude, it
You're
goes
long
and
gone,
we're
bud.
gone.
You're long gone,
Yeah,
bud.
we're
I mean, I'll
gone.
be gone.
Maybe
but
I'll come back.
Come back.
Maybe
get
I'll be like
another
a 26-year-old, 27-year-old.
I'll be his
student
assistant.
Yeah. Yeah, but I just want to thank you for coming on. I don't know, Jared, if you have any more questions, but yeah, we covered a lot this episode. This is probably going to be one of the longer ones, unless we have another guest that is as important as Riley come on. But yeah, Riley, thank you for coming. We are happy to have you. At least in terms of social media, you're going to help me grow as a social media like manager person, graphic designer, stuff like that. And then kind of prepare me for my future, hopefully in esports. So I just want to personally thank you. And yeah, that was awesome. But
Sounds good. Thank you guys for having me, and go Lakers.
Yeah, anchor up, baby.